I wasn't expecting to make a Final Fantasy XIV video today, but they did the thing I said they should probably do. When we went over the Lucky Bancho numbers, people said, oh, it's because of the free login campaign. So I said, well, if that's making the numbers for the game better, just do it again. And people said I was crazy. Once again, vindication. Okay, all jokes aside. Hello, everybody. It's your boy Jmulls, and we gotta talk about some Final Fantasy XIV. Okay, so for those not terminally online asking, hey Jmulls, can you get me up to speed with what's going on here? Don't worry, because I got you covered. So, every now and then, there's someone that goes by Lucky Bancho that uploads basically a bunch of statistics about the state of Final Fantasy XIV. And it's no real surprise that Dawntrail itself has been rather divisive. And for a lot of Dawntrail's life, we saw the number of players for Final Fantasy XIV go down and down and down. We talked about why that could be the case and what Final Fantasy XIV could do to remedy that, but not too long ago we saw those numbers kind of like bottom out and that massive decline, well, just basically stop. And one of the reasons people attributed that to was because Final Fantasy XIV let you play the game for free for a period of time. That makes a lot of sense, right? Because if you can just play the game for free, some people that might be more on the fence would be more willing to try it out. And people said, oh, well, that's going to be a one-off. And I said, well, if that is stabilizing the numbers for the game and you believe in the content in the game enough and you think the current state of the game is fun enough, well then it would be smart to do it again for subsequent patches. And when I said that Final Fantasy XIV should do that, I had people coming at me saying, oh, they're not going to do that. That's not realistic. Why would they do that? And once again, vindication. Now, I want to talk about why I think this is a smart decision from Final Fantasy XIV. It's not just because I said do it, and despite the fact this video is basically a victory lap for me, but I do think this is overall a smart decision. I think the state of Dawntrail is getting better and better. And while I wouldn't call it like the best Final Fantasy XIV has ever been or anything like that, the story and the writing has gotten immensely better over the last few patches, or at least with the last few patches. And now Dawntrail has a decent spread of content for you to partake in if you want to. And I think for quite a few people, just getting that kick in the pants to say, hey, you know what? I can at least try out the current state of the game and see if it resonates with me. I would have argued myself saying, hey, maybe do this with 7.45. That way we also have the variant dungeon online for people to try. So I question the timing a little bit, but it does seem as if Final Fantasy XIV overall wants to try to recoup some of the players that it has shed over the course of Dawntrail. What I do think is smart about the timing for this is that it would allow people to catch up on the MSQ so that when they do eventually announce 8.0 and 7.5, when we get to the fan fests, people will be more invested because they'll be caught up with the current storyline, which in terms of overall writing quality and character and pacing has gotten so much immensely better ever since 7.2. And with story and storytelling be such an integral part of the overall experience of Final Fantasy XIV, I think that's probably one of the biggest overall goals with this free login campaign. And you can also try out things like the new raid, the deep dungeon, all that stuff, right? But I think their main goal is to say, hey, we know there's still a lot of energy out there that's negative to Final Fantasy XIV into the overall story right now. We have faith in the current storyline with the recent patches. Let's give people another opportunity to catch themselves up with what's going on and to possibly become invested once again, especially with 7.4 teasing the next new narrative arc. And with this only being a few months removed from the first fan fest, that makes a lot of sense to me. What I think this is also partly is just for overall PR. You're not going to shift the public perception entirely with just this one free login campaign or anything like that, right? That's nonsensical. But for a lot of people that are on the fence, where it's just hey, there was once a time where I loved Final Fantasy XIV and I would love to play it again if it's good. I just don't know if I want to invest money right now to test whether or not it's good. Well, here you go. It's more a gentle nudge than forcing the arrow to move for people, if that makes sense. But I think this is the grander question that we have to answer. Will it matter? And I think it's a little bit complicated. As I said before in the previous discussion of the free login campaign, sure, you can give people a reason or an easier time to check out the game and to play it again, but if the game itself isn't good, and if the future projection for the game isn't good, people aren't going to stick around to stay. And while I do think the game has improved drastically since 7.0, there are still some areas where it could use a lot of improvements. Things like job design, in my opinion, the overall patch schedule, it takes so much time to go from patch to patch, patch. And while it is historically something that Final Fantasy XIV has done for the longest time at this point, it is tradition having a new patch come out and then the big like repeatable content for the patch not come out till like the .x5 patch. That is a kick in the shins for a lot of people. And it's something that I hope that they're willing to address moving forward when we get to the 8.0 expansion cycle. But like we talked about before, and we talk about a lot of the time, the story is such an important element for Final Fantasy XIV, and I think that is the element that has improved the most over the course of Dawntrail. It has gotten so much better. 7.2 and 7.3 told a really compelling storyline, and then 7.4, while it was kind of slow, admittedly so, it was still well executed with great animations, engaging and actually likable characters, like really likable characters, and it left off with a plot twist and basically a tease for the future that makes me really dang excited for what's coming next. So while I wouldn't argue the game is perfect, the game has never been perfect to begin with, I think overall it's in such a better state holistically than where we were with 7.0. And I think that will matter for a lot of people, because I think the very extreme opinions you can see online, like either end of the spectrum, where either people absolutely are head over heels with the game and the game can do no wrong, or the game can do no right and they absolutely loathe the game and they really want to make sure you know that they loathe the game. Those ends of the spectrum, I feel, are the vast minority, and that there's a lot of people in the middle there that may like the game or liked the game at some point in time before. They just have fallen out of love with the game for whatever reason. Maybe their friends stopped playing, maybe they just became disillusioned with the story, or the content cycle and updates for this game has just become a bit too repetitive for them, because for the longest time Final Fantasy XIV has largely stuck to its guns as to what a Final Fantasy XIV patch is going to look and feel like. But if you give them a reason to care and a reason to go, you know what, this is a lot better than what we had just been doing, I think that will matter for quite a few people. And again, I don't think this game's gonna like double its sub figures or anything because of this free login campaign. It's just a measure, a tool in the toolbox that Square Enix is utilizing to start shifting public perception even more without actually having to make all new content just for that stated goal. They can leverage the content they're already making and just give it another nudge to make it a little bit more effective by saying, hey, haven't played for at least 30 days? Well, come try out the current state of the game, come try out the new patch, and maybe you'll become more invested. Maybe they won't come back immediately, but maybe they'd be more willing to tune into FanFest with a hint of optimism instead of pessimism. And subtle shifts like that can be so important, because what you don't want your community at large and your player base, historically speaking, to feel is apathy. Because when they feel apathetic, that is when it's really dang hard to ever recoup those people. People that feel passionate, people that are still, for like lack of a better word, emotional one way or the other, they still care to some degree, whether it's large or small. And so long as the game is good and you show them, hey, we are getting better here, especially with an element that is as important as the story, I think that can do a lot of good for the game. Also, it lets you check out the end of the arcade, in which I found really fun. I love the fights, I love the story. I know people's like reactions to the finale of the Arcadian story-wise are a bit split, but I think content-wise, it's so dang fun, and that's just another way to get people feeling more positive and optimistic for the game going forward. So yeah, I think overall, this was a really smart decision on Square Enix's part, and I think they would be especially smart to do this after we get to 7.5 as well, for the exact same reasons we covered why this was a good decision, in my opinion, for 7.4. When we get to 7.5, just do it again. Leverage the resources at your disposal to the best of your abilities to make sure that people are as engaged and up to date when we get to 8.0 as humanly possible, so they can feel excited by the fan fests and also the overall game state and feel like, hey, I'm kind of up to date, I'm ready to dive into 8.0. Minimize any potential friction for people to come back into the game. Just minimize that as much as you humanly can. If they do that, which they are starting to do here with this free login campaign, I think overall, so long as 8.0 is good, it'd be good for the game as well. There is an elephant in the room that we have to address, and this is for if you're on the NA servers, and that's the DDoS attacks. Look, I get it. For whatever reason, this keeps happening to Final Fantasy XIV. It's not like Square Enix wants it to happen, right? I'm sure they're trying, or at least hopefully trying some way behind the scenes to try to mitigate this as much as possible. I get that that's what they're probably trying to do, but I wouldn't say it's the best look for the region that's been plagued by the DDoS attacks, where it's like, hey, we'll give you some time to play the game for free, only if your account has been inactive for 30 days though. It feels like a light slap in the face to the people that are sticking through all this. My suggestion, just give some people some free time. I think like at this point in time, that's just like the best thing that Final Fantasy XIV could really do. Just give the people that have been affected by the DDoS attacks in those regions just some free time. And then obviously try some way, some kind of wizardry in the back there to conjure up some kind of defense to make the servers a bit more stable. I think that would be the best thing that Final Fantasy XIV could do right now. So I just bumped my microphone there. But yeah, like I said, if you want even more good PR, do that in my opinion. But here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with what you think the game still needs to address, remedy, or what you think the game needs to stick to its guns about. I'd love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspectives. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And yesterday was totally New Year's. Absolutely, don't check the date. And Yoshi P uploaded a hint, a tease if you will, as to possibly something concerning 8.0. Well, you know I had to address it, especially since yesterday was New Year's. Totally, yeah. Oh. Well, if you want to find what that's all about, well, you should check out this video right here for more. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.